selfie of all of us at the end, for posterity, so that you can print that out and frame it and put it on your wall and say, that's the date I had the best Google Meet call of my
And,
life. Anyway, I'm just
and sorry,
now.
sorry for interruption. Will you share a video and our images as well?
You use video and what?
I'm sharing that. Will you share our videos and photos as well through the Gmail?
Right
Yeah,
on. Yeah, well, it's I think the use of video and the use of just some imagery, especially in this, the online world can be really impersonal, and always with the worry, is this like some fake scammer or bot or something. So I think in this world of online video calls, always good, turn that video on. If you don't always have to, like sometimes it's just not possible, or it's just we're not having a good hair day, and it's like, no, I'm not turning it on today. But as much as possible, I think, so I have prepared just a few kind of talking points around, and the first kind of thing that I've prepared here really is just around the questions that, well, both of you, and I had one more person aside from my regular Brazilian colleague who she comes regularly. And by the way, you're all invited to come back to this call again and again if you wish. That's kind of like one of the kind of like hidden benefits of it. I kind of advertise it as kind of a one-off, but for anybody who shows up, you're always more than welcome to come back again and again. So, some of the questions there were just knowing about CELTA, TEFL, and TESOL. If somebody is providing me wrong information, so I guess there are a lot of scams out there. And then I think validation that I am on the right path for what I want to do with TEFL and teaching business English. I just saw your ranking video and posted a comment. Thank you so much. You know who you are. So to just kind of like talk about these things, I kind of like thought we could bring it down into kind of three general kind of talking points. When it comes to a coaching business and that question there around, the desire to teach business English, some of the advice that I have, is really based around, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, with any business, but especially a coaching business, identifying a niche is definitely huge. And starting off there with business English, this may sound like not quite an oxymoron, but like a contradiction in terms. I would say business English is the biggest niche. It's kind of, so there is a lot of, whether you're in India or Brazil or Spain or China or Japan, or you will find the most clients for that niche of teaching English. However, this is really rudimentary business here, where there's a bigger base of clients. I wouldn't say it's completely saturated, but there's a more competition for those clients. So if I look at my own experience, I also started off with business English as my niche, because right out of college I had some experience working in banking, so I felt that I was, I had familiarity with that jargon, really niche English, or what it's really called is ESP, English for Specific Purposes. That's what that kind of branch, like if you're Googling, you want to look into ESP, English for Specific Purposes. And really, if I could describe niche or ESP teaching in a very succinct phrase, it's just being comfortable with the jargon. Because, and you might say, Fergus, that's very trite. I'm not trying to be trite or flippant, but you will begin to see whether you're teaching ESP or exam classes or general English or even teacher training, and then you know, if you even then begin to start transferring your English language teaching career and background into other areas, such as I've done, you'll see that the frameworks for the lessons are very, very similar. For example, there's a framework in general English language teaching that's called PPP. That's present, practice, produce. Okay, just so I was mentioning to Tia just before you came on the call, Ahmed, for the last few days, I've been in a neighboring province of Canada called New Brunswick, visiting some of the cities there to train some lawyers how to use technology for their specific piece of software. And I used a PPP, present, practice, produce model for that lesson. So, you know, here's my point to all of this. Business English, yeah, it's the biggest niche, if I can use that kind of way of describing it. However, it's a great entry because, again, one of my biggest piece of advice is, you know, we all kind of know this, that in any industry, you don't start at the top. Be okay at starting at the bottom. You know, the objective is gaining experience, at least for, I would say, 6 months to a year, so that you're comfortable with PPP, TTT, TBI, you know, all these ways of formulating lessons. And I think, you know, a good way, yeah, to do that is in an area that you're comfortable with. You know, what I did then as well, the way I started to branch out, well, I took another look at my own background. And yes, I had worked in banking, but I also had this degree in law. So, you know, I sought out lawyers. I saw, and, you know, I've spoken to other people who have spoken to me about business English. And I said, okay, well, let's just, you know, business is such a broad term. Could we narrow it down a little bit? And I've had 2 clients over the last 6 months. One woman narrowed it down into, I've never heard of this niche before, but I love it. English for the fashion industry. She had worked in fashion for a long time. She loved it. And yeah, she went from business English, 1 million clients in the world, to fashion industry, 30. But like those 30 are looking for her, you know, rather than trying to fish in from a sea of 1 million. The other one was still a bit, it was more broad than that. He had quite a bit of experience in project management. Now, if you teach business English, there will be sections in a business English book. Like the most famous business English book is called Market Leader. There's a whole series from beginner to advanced in business English. And you will find a module in, let's say, the upper intermediate Market Leader book that focuses on, you know, project management as its theme for the module. But, you know, just looking at not from a pedagogical point of view, but from you being an entrepreneur, you being a business person, you know, it's how you present yourself. Hey, I teach business English, but I've got this specialization in project management. And so you see where I'm going there. Just bring what you can really dial into. It'll just help you get clients. But then also, having said that, I don't want to say that we're boxed in, you know, to only the things that we can find in our past. Because one of the things of, you know, being, you know, on a call like this, where there's an Indian man, an American woman, and an Irish guy in Canada, you know, we're exposed to a whole broad range of humanity, really, right? And, you know, none of us are any one thing. You know, I talk a lot about, you know, we live in this world of T and I were talking about it. We were living in this world of specialists, whereas, you know, generalists, I think, are, you know, sought after kind of person. And I think all of us in some ways, if we're open to it, we can find that ability to be a generalist. Again, if I use myself as a case study here, I don't know how, well, I mean, I can tell you the details, but some way or another, I also ended up teaching English for aviation purposes. I never even knew that that existed. I never knew that there was a niche called teaching English for aviation. Turns out, when you think about it, all the international air traffic controllers, what language are they speaking? Whether they're in Mumbai or JFK airport, or they're in, you know, Dublin or Tokyo, it's all English.
Right.
So it's actually, it just never would have occurred to me. And when I was given that project actually by a school that I was working in, all of a sudden they got this contract with these air traffic controllers from the Czech Republic. And all of a sudden we had like 60 air traffic controller students from the Czech Republic. And I remember this was years and years ago, back in the early 2000s. And I remember the director of studies saying, Fergus, I think you're the guy for this. And I was like, I mean, I've been in a plane, but, you know, I've been to an airport, but, you know, I said, don't worry about it. Here's a book. So there's a book that has a whole syllabus in there, and let's look at the book together. And I was like, okay, actually, this looks like a general English book, or this looks like a market leader business English book, insofar as the book was actually laid out in the same way. There's a module that has a central theme, and then it's broken down into vocabulary lessons, reading lessons, writing lessons, grammar lessons, but all with the relevant jargon for, I don't know, helping somebody in a 747 land, whatever it is. But I could still apply the same frameworks that I was taught in. So let me try and summarize everything that I've said there. Sure, start off with a big niche. Great way to get into it and to start really thinking about yourself as an entrepreneur. That would be strongly my advice. That I would say that's the best route. Become an entrepreneur in the world of English language teaching. Then try to find smaller niches, but also be open to the bigger niches, because overarching all of it, it's teaching at the end of the day. It's coaching at the end of the day. And as long as you have a clear framework with clear objectives, and you know, you're a strong communicator, then, and you know, being a strong communicator is something, it's just, hey, I'm a musician. You can just practice it. You can get better at it. So if you feel that, oh, I don't know how strong of a communicator I am, it is something that improves. Absolutely. I found out in my, you know, you both know that I'm a YouTuber. Like if I go back and look at some of the really cringe videos from when I started off, that's uber cringe. But even like the middle years so far, it's quite cringe. And even like 6 months ago, it's cringe, you know, to me. But I don't care, because like I have to go through. I have to learn. Part of learning is being okay with not doing it right, you know, getting it wrong, giving it a go, and saying, sure. I'm not God.
Right. Everybody can improve, right? That was really helpful to hear you say that, because I didn't look at business English as this really huge, you know, niche. I didn't, and now that you speak about it, there is a lot out there. There are a lot of coaches. If you look at some of these marketplaces where people are advertising, there's hundreds of them. The one I found yesterday, there was 148 people that teach business English. So that was very helpful. You know, I've done so many different things that and you're right. At some point, initially, I don't want to box myself in. Okay, I only want to do this. Because why? Because you and I aren't like that. You could just do, you know, 100 different things. I don't know if I would have the patience to teach children. I've had 2 children, but I don't or people that are really brand new. I've heard that as a separate, you know, niche area, is the people that can't speak any at all, and very different teaching methodology. From what I've heard, I might be wrong, but I guess if I had one question for you, it would be, will that TEFL Academy program, I think I just want to do the 168-hour online only, the level 5. I don't know how much I would gain from going to Boston and sitting in a classroom for 10 hours. If I wanted to teach in a classroom, yes, I would take that. But do can you weigh in on those two options? Because I can go to Boston at any time. It's 5-hour drive. It's not a big deal. Is
Yeah.
it to pay the extra, or do I do the 168 online and then take their new CELTA? They have this new 40-hour CELTA add-on program, like module, where you can pay $110 or whatever it is, and you can actually do a CELTA equivalent kind of observed teaching. To me, I think that would be more beneficial than sitting in a room with 6 people doing classroom stuff. But I'm open to hearing what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to give a short soundbitey answer to that, because there's a lot of variables. But I'll try to limit myself to 1 or 2 minutes, so I'll keep it as targeted as possible. I think if you do want to choose something that's just gets you what you need, and then because if you feel that, hey, I've got enough experience and wherewithal to kind of like set up a kind of coaching business myself, and like you've done life coaching yourself, so
yeah, I had my own business. I have my own coaching business, and yeah, I mean, I haven't been a teacher. I've been a trainer.
right.
Done a heck of a lot of training,
Right.
the last 10 years too. So
No, absolutely. And I can, in the brief time that we're speaking, I can see that, you're fine you're a clear speaker, you're a good communicator. And like, those are, huge factors that some people take a long time to get good at. They eventually can get good at, but if you kind of hit the ground running with good communication there, I think then, in terms of getting you comfortable in the like teaching environment, if you were to choose, because there are multiple aspects to it, there's a whole theoretical kind of underpinning, which does help you understand why you're doing what you're doing. But
right.
If you just wanted to, get straight to do what you're doing and not really wonder why so much, then yeah, something that just is focused on observed teaching and providing you some feedback and guidance. And, if that were a small condensed course that only focuses on you doing some teaching practices and giving you guidance along that way, I think that's.
But I mean both. So I mean, do the level 5, go to the TEFL Academy, because I looked between 3 and 5.
Right.
I would appreciate more of the theoretical information behind the level 5. So
Yeah.
I'm a perpetual student. So if I do the level 5, you have 2 choices for that training.
Mm-hmm.
You can do online only or combined.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Now I got the angle.
But the combined is one day hanging out in Boston in a room with, 5 other teachers that probably don't have anything in common with me. And I would rather do level 5 online and then pay to take that new, they're saying it's like CELTA.
Yeah.
So if I need it to do both, I think I'd get more out of that.
Yeah.
The CELTA training, what my issue with CELTA, going straight CELTA, is the expense. Because how am I going to do this forever? You know me, multi-potentialite. It's like, do I drop, $2,000 to do something that I might, or 1,500, whatever it'd be? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So you got to ask yourself, okay, if it's this expensive, what value am I getting from it? And I think the real value, to choose something like CELTA over TEFL Academy, because TEFL Academy, quality-wise, I've checked out the course. Like that's why I endorse them actually. Right. So like I've got I've checked it out. Like it checks out. Like the content of their courses, the level of their feedback. The people provide from having gone through the experience. Like it's. They moderate, they're audited as well, so they moderate their courses, so it's not like, oh yeah, we said we're good, so therefore we're good. No, like it's you can trust their standards too. So what do you then, in light of that, why would you go to pay the extra few $100s or whatever it may be?
There's the international one too, so it was between, you rank TTA and ITA. So the international, which I saw one of Jamie's, I think Jamie's videos on that. And that sounds grueling, and it sounds like you get a lot out of it. And it's like, well, but to me, their focus seems more on teaching abroad, which at this point I have no desire to do.
Right. So that's where I was kind of like come down on that. That was going to be the deciding factor for me. That like CELTA, it has this name brand recognition because it has the Cambridge thing applied to it. So wherever you go, they're going to recognize it. And some like regulated country, like back home in Ireland, again, this is not your case, but the regulatory body has a list of actually 3 or 4 courses that they'll accept. And last time I checked, even though International TEFL Academy has an equivalent to it, it's just not accepted, so you wouldn't get a job. However, I don't think that applies in your case. And I think as well the path that you're talking about, you know, I do think there is value in doing something in person where possible. And I used to be quite kind of like maybe over the top, a hard line on that, because I don't know, maybe I just got too much tech in my life or whatever. But I had a conversation actually with a client of mine, and he changed my mind on it quite a bit. He said he did a online CELTA, everything was online, but then right away he started teaching. He teaches over, and it's actually a guy on my channel. I'll share the link to the video. This guy Seth I was speaking with, and he's teaching over in Washington State, and he went from completely online to not teaching online but teaching in person. And I asked him about the transferability, and he said it's totally fine. Like you don't, in his experience at least, he didn't find that he was in any way held back or handicapped by only having done everything online. So I think, you know, Tia, in your context, if your objective is not to go to Vietnam and backpack for a year and teach in that way, if your objective is maybe do some teaching in your local community, but maybe primarily focusing on developing an online coaching business where you're focusing in on a niche, then yeah, I don't think that CELTA, you're getting the value of that extra cost from CELTA. And you know, with like TEFL Academy, you know, one thing I like about them is, yeah, as you know, they've all these programs, you know, like, and the part of some of their programs there is to help you with job placement as well, you know. So, you know, in those,
right, I don't need that. Yeah, I'm just in a unique situation where I really don't need to make any money. I mean, I'm looking for something to do for enjoyment where I can give back. I mean, I worked for 33 years, God bless. Right. No, I did my time.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great place to be.
But so, I would just say, yeah, and it is a beautiful place to be where your motivation is now, you know, because yeah, if you listen to anybody giving any advice around these things, it's really about having, you know, a set of values and, you know, figuring out what's important to you. And yeah, we all got to pay our bills, but if that kind of like, that part can be kind of like lower down on the totem pole of motivations, then, you know, it's a better place to be in. However, not to like beat a dead donkey, but I would say the job placement thing, or a dead horse, or whatever kind of like an animal that's dead that I'm still beating, I would say that just focusing on getting some experience once you finish doing your course, and better if you can get that experience with some kind of institution. And like, you know, you're in the case that, you know, whether they're paying you minimum wage or they're paying you $100 an hour or whatever it is, it's like what you're getting, like you really just see that like extra training. You know, I often tell people this, you know, I have a bunch of videos on my channel about where I talk about how to get an A in the CELTA course. But and I think I have said this in some videos, I freely admit it, I didn't get an A myself, but about 5 to 6 months after I finished the course, because I was lucky to start working right away, I was at that level. In fact, I was well beyond what an A was on my CELTA. So, you know, just, and I think, well, I would almost say I know, because I've been in the management side of things as well. I remember when I ran schools, particularly when I ran a school in Brazil. I remember speaking with the owner, and we kind of came to the conclusion that a person who said, "I've got CELTA, but then I just ran my own business for 10 years," as opposed to a person who said, "I've got this certification that I'm not 100% sure about, but I've worked for this school, and I've worked for this school, and I've worked for that school," I'm probably more likely to hire them. Because the person who got like this good certification, but then has just gone off and done their own thing, well, they could be very makey uppy. They could be very, do you know what I mean? Like it just might not be as reliable a product.
Yeah,
Really.
I agree with that. It's when I did all my coaching training, I did in person. So I'm really big on that. I've done a lot of training myself. I've done leadership training of teams in person. So there's a huge, to your point, huge benefit of actually getting that experience in the classroom or somehow in teaching. So I don't want to take up all of. I want Amit to have a chance to ask you questions.
Yeah,
so,
no problem. We're going to jump into that right now. But
that's been very helpful. I've appreciated.
No, fantastic. Yeah, so just, there has been quite a bit of crossover in what we're talking about here. When it comes to knowing more about CELTA and TEFL and TESOL, first of all, just to say that all of you're going to find in this world of teaching English that there's just so many acronyms. And in fact, a lot of the acronyms have crossover. So TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language; ESL, English as a second language; ESOL, English for speakers of other languages; TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages. Like if you were to write those down, I can just write them off, obviously, because I've been in this game for a long time. But if you write them down, you'd actually, yeah, but that kind of says the same thing. And they do. There's a lot of acronyms that are really just saying the same thing. So there's actually no real difference unless at a very kind of academic level or a very almost philosophical level, beliefs around teaching. That's actually a thing that you're asked about when you start to do a diploma course like Delta or a master's in TESOL. You'd be asked to kind of like establish what do you believe around learning? What do you believe a learner is? What do you believe teaching is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these acronyms kind of come from those kinds of conversations. But for our purposes as people setting out in the industry and people, just trying to orient ourselves and figure out what's next, really just see all of that as different points of view, different angles looking at the same thing. It's all just teaching English. As I mentioned as well, CELTA, it's the most well-known certificate probably in the world. I don't know how these numbers were arrived at, but when I was, only training CELTAs, I remember my colleagues and I would talk about CELTA having something like 70% of the worldwide market. Now, I'll admit I was just repeating the party line there. That's what was, the information I got from the schools I was working in. I didn't run those statistics myself, but it seemed like that to me. It seemed like wherever I went in the world, CELTA was known, and just because of that name recognition. Cambridge University, it's worldwide known, so it's like a stamp of approval of quality. There are other courses out there that have equivalent levels of quality. There's another one from the UK called the Trinity Cert TESOL, and that's validated from Trinity College London. So another, maybe not quite the level of Cambridge in terms of name recognition, but it's like, what's the difference between Harvard and Princeton? Like they're both Ivy Leagues. Like maybe a Princeton graduate will say they're better than Harvard or etc. You know what I mean. So, but then just under there, and not under in terms of like quality of information. This is something that Tia, you've really been researching. There's courses like the TEFL Academy and International TEFL Academy that and they've got external accreditation. Like they're really well-run businesses. Really, they took a look at what CELTA is doing. They took a look at what Trinity's doing. Said, we can do that. They've got accreditation. We can get that, and we can provide it maybe at better cost, and we can fill in all of these gaps that something like the CELTA course does. You know, the thing that I was demonstrating there that, again, Thea, you were saying, it's probably not so interesting to you, but like job placement. That's a thing that no CELTA center does. They give you like maybe a 1-hour talk on finding a job at the end of your course, and that's it. So, you know, these kinds of courses have a growing reputation. So more and more, you know, internationally, I can't speak for every single country in the world, but you know, big centers, you know, destinations for people who are English language teachers. You know, places like Southeast Asia, the Middle East, you're going to be able to get jobs with these certificates being the, you know, the crossing over the barrier to entry. There, when it comes to scams and, you know, avoiding scams with these TEFL courses, you know, really it's pretty intuitive advice I would offer there. You know, first of all, check out, do they have accreditation? You know, so that's something I was talking about the International TEFL Academy. And don't just leave it at, you know, on their website that we're accredited. Check out where that accreditation comes from. You know, like, who is this external body? Because after all, even if it's a cheaper than CELTA course, you're probably still going to be spending quite a few $100s or maybe the early thousands. So, you know, that's not money that I want to throw in the fire. So, you know, first thing is, yeah, just do your research. More than just the very first Google search result. I would advise against using ChatGPT or GPT, even though it'll give you, you know, there's this term, we talk a lot about it in the legal industry that I work in ChatGPT, because you probably all read these funny stories about lawyers who have used ChatGPT to write their closing arguments. And then the judge is like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, some of the cases that they're referencing don't even exist. All of that's called hallucinations. So while ChatGPT is great for drafting this or that very quickly, and it's improving, you know, if you think about where it is today and where it was 2 years ago, I heard this very famous, he was one of those early internet investors, Peter Thiel. He said that AI is today what the internet was in 1995. So if you think about what the internet is today in comparison to what it was in 1995, very different things, you know, so where we're going with that. Anyway, I do digress. I wouldn't use ChatGPT for your research, but just do a good bit of research on it. You know, other things is price is a good indicator. If you're looking at courses like International TEFL Academy and CELTA, and they're in the $1,000 to $2,000 range, and then you find a course that offers all the same stuff, but like it's $100, I'm like, why? You know, I would get a little bit suspicious there, you know. If you're still attracted to it and it's this vastly different price, you know, speak to somebody, try to find, you know, Google reviews or any other kind of reviews of people who have actually been through it. You know, a little insider tip, a lot of the research I did for that video where I'm ranking all of these courses, a lot of the research I did was reading reviews. You know, yes, I did review the syllabus and I did review what they're offering and I did review their accreditation, but to get like an angle on it, like I look, what are people saying about it? Because, you know, you often find a lot of honesty there.
That was a good video. Amit, if you haven't seen that, he did Ferg did a ranking video. What was the name of it? Let me see.
I can't even remember the name myself. You've got me there. The tier, it's called a tier list. What did I call it?
It's called, where are you?
I have it here. I have it here as well. See who'll get it first. Our TEFL courses scams full tier list.
Was that it, or was that maybe?
I don't want to watch ads. I don't
Looking back through my history, and I've
on my own channel.
Salto or
Is this the one you're talking about, Tia?
digital nomad. Wait, let me come back. Wait, where are you? Oh. Where are you? There we go. Yeah, yeah, that's it. I have too many tabs open. So yeah, Amit, if you haven't seen that, that's a good video, because I was looking at TEFL.org, and you put it at the level B, and you know, I was surprised because their website's pretty glitzy. I think they do a nice job with all their tutor profiles. But if you test out their portal, they've moved from Moodle to self-hosting, and it's pretty bland. It's pretty like, and people were saying, oh, you know, you fall asleep because there's not much going on. So
Right.
did the test portal, and it was okay, but it wasn't as fancy as I think the other ones are that use Moodle.
Like, hey, I will also, you know,
On that, because I was leaning toward TEFL.org, even though it would have been more money, because it's all add-on. Like with TEFL Academy, it includes business,
right.
English, it includes one-on-one and online, it includes all that stuff.
Yeah.
And with the 50% off right now, you can do level 5 online for $225, which I can't believe they're not charging more money. I think it's worth more than that.
Yeah.
So that's the one I'm doing, Amit, is I'm going to do the level 5 through the TEFL Academy.
So I'm just sharing links. Just in the chat, I shared a link to that. Excuse me, that video, and I'll also share a link to, this is the International TEFL Academy. That now I'm not sure if you can combine offers here, but in any case, if you use the link that I sent you there, you will be able to like download their information booklet. So if that's something that's interesting to you as well, you can use that.
Now that looks like it just looks like a good program. I don't know if they're is certified the right word by the one in the US, by the DEAC. I didn't see that.
No, it's not. Where is it from? Oh,
T-E-T-Q. I don't even know what it was. TQ. It says it on the website.
TQ, yeah, you're on it now.
Yeah, TQU. I don't know. I don't know what those are, but
yeah, it's an international accreditation. Where is it here? I want to find just the.
Are you going to take a program, Amit? Are you going to do a certification?
Yeah. Can you please come again?
You were thinking about doing Salto, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is another one. Oh, I'll find out later. I don't want to hold up your time watching me scrolling around trying to find the exact link. Guys, I'm going to just move on a little bit and just kind of just show you a few other things. I'm going to go over kind of fast now, but I'll send you all of this as a PDF afterwards, so you can you'll have all of these materials, and you'll also have access to the recording of this call as well. So, so just, you know, in the teaching world, also I also like to sometimes just give a little bit of if you're interested, if you can find a copy of this, you know, you don't have to go out and spend $50 or whatever and buy this book, but if you can get access to it, yeah, in these calls, I like to recommend a couple of books every week. So Scott Thornbury is one of the most kind of well-regarded authors, I'd say over the last 30, 40 years almost now, actually, in the whole world of ESL. And, you know, what's nice about him, you know, it kind of covers, you know, key concepts that you need. He's pretty readable as well, by the way. He's pretty, you know, accessible book. How to develop this thing. There's two aspects of language. There's language knowledge and language awareness. And by the way, for our purposes as language teachers, language doesn't necessarily mean the English language or the French language. What language means for us is grammar and lexis being like a fancy word for vocabulary. Language also considers a pronunciation, and then this other aspect, I've got a video of it on my channel, of language that's called functional language. So developing an awareness for, oh, that student had an issue with grammar there, they had an issue with pronunciation, they had an issue with, because as non-language professionals, the term, my dad, when my French friend would come over and visit, my dad didn't have any, it's the grammar is the problem, or this or that is the problem. He just had what's called a foreign flavor. It just, the way that my French friend was saying it to him, it just tasted wrong. He didn't know why. But us as language professionals, we need to grow in this awareness so that we can zero in and help our students with the need that they are demonstrating to us, not the need that we are prescribing to them, right? If your awareness can do that. So Scott Thornbury talks a lot about that. Strategies or frameworks for teaching English. It's insights on language instruction, practical tasks for teacher development. Obviously, if you're just reading this by yourself, they're just kind of like reflective tasks. But just things to get the wheels in motion. I don't think I've read this book cover to cover, but I'll jump in and out of it and just leaf through it and just read a couple of pages here and there. It's really enough to just get you thinking about what you're doing, and more than that, I can't recommend more. The other side of things, I talk a lot, or I'm starting to talk more and more on my channel and the people I work with about the whole life of a digital nomad.
Right.
And probably expect to see more videos on this from me in the coming months, because I'm going to Denver, Colorado. I'm going to Las Vegas. Then I'm going to South America, and I'm going to be taking a ship from Argentina to Uruguay to Chile to then to Antarctica, and then I'm going to come back to Brazil, and I'm going to kind of like continue working that entire time. Obviously, I'll take days off here and there when I'm, really. But so I just came across this book. Actually, Tia, you and I were talking about audiobooks. There's an audiobook version of it, and it's really short. And I haven't read this one cover to cover, but there's some nice just insights if that's something that appeals to you, especially if you're a coach or an online teacher, or you have a ability maybe to do this, or if it's something that appeals to you to travel and work freely, just that remote working, to be able to go and spend some time in these places and continue working, the whole kind of financial aspect of it is talked about, visas, healthcare, jobs, all of that kind of stuff is considerations there, and just how to get started. So that's just a book I came across. I'm not going to come down and say this is the definitive Bible on this stuff, but hey, it's something interesting in the world of digital nomadry, I guess. So when it comes to me, so I have, whoops, let's not jump the gun. Obviously, you probably picked up from my YouTube channel, I do offer coaching for people, but I've also started to just very recently develop this online community for anybody who joins up to these calls. And yes, from time to time, you will see me offering a course or offering that. I'm not going to hide that, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business person, so I will offer things from time to time. However, I've also, there's nothing like that in there yet. It's really just a place. One of my clients, you can kind of just see her here in the screenshot. We were talking about this idea of collegiality, and collegiality really just being people wanting the best for each other in a professional sense, so just lending the perspective of a man teaching English in India, or a woman teaching, you're starting a coaching business in upstate New York, or my student down in Brazil, or whomever it may be. So I just thought it'd be a great opportunity, as it says there, to you know, I will be sharing some resources, but also just to connect with like-minded educators. And you know, from time to time, I will be inviting people like Jamie and other people like that to join in, just for not like public videos, but just kind of more private Q&As. So I'll just share a link to that in the chat, and there's nothing to do. Just click the link and you just sign up. There's only a few people in it so far, so you guys are like the pioneers. You're the you're the first people in there. So it's a very exclusive community at the moment, but really just kind of getting off the ground. So you just need a Gmail. Click that link and then you're in there. And I usually just ask people to post a little note, who you are, where you're from, and you know, over time we'll start getting conversation going there. Again, I'll send all of this as a PDF to you afterwards. I have a website. You can have a look at that. I have just a page with all of my links. I do offer a couple of very short ebooks. Again, full transparency, a chunk of them is dedicated to marketing, but I do also try to write them in such a way that there's genuinely useful information in there. If you're thinking about CELTA, this book here is all around the assignments of CELTA, whereas the other one is really just focused on teaching English more broadly. Kind of like that Scott Thornbury book that I was mentioning earlier on, but as opposed to 250 pages, 9 pages. You know, it's a little bit more than a digital pamphlet. Okay. Yeah, so obviously all of you have seen some of the videos on my channel. These are just some that I recommend to people. So again, this person will be familiar to you, Tia. If you haven't come across ESL Teacher 365, Ahmed, I highly recommend her. Jamie and I have had a couple of conversations on both of our channels, and we do similar work, and I think she's great. So if you're fed up with me, go to her. She's great. And I included, you know, I have a few interviews with people that I've worked with before. So this is Grace. She's American but lives in Italy, and she recently did the CELTA, and she just talks about her experience. I really enjoyed it. I include here an example of me teaching a class. There's a few examples of me teaching a class on my channel, and this one here is actually an example of some coaching with me. Emmett, you have your hand raised there. Would you like to jump in with a question?
Yeah. I am afraid. Yeah, I am afraid. Should I do CELTA or not? How can you motivate me, please?
Well, you know, it's a big question, Ahmed, isn't it? You know, but like I say, you just gotta. A big thing is like it's a big financial commitment, and I would just the simplest thing I would say to you is make a pros and cons list, make a cost benefit. It costs this much. What's the benefit I'm getting from it? And you know, that would be the most fundamental thing I would do. The other thing, without being a shameless plug, but I even if this wasn't my content, I think I would recommend watch a video like this, like Grace's video, where she talks about her experience. So she's not selling anything. I'm not selling anything. I just asked her, hey, Grace, I think people would like to hear from somebody who's done it. So I have a couple of videos like that. I think it'll give you an insight to the experience. So those two things would be my main advice. So yeah, I do preparation courses. Here's another client of mine I worked with recently. He's actually from close to UT. He's from Pennsylvania, Scott. Do you know him by any chance? You haven't run into him and you're...
What's the last name? God.
Oh, actually. Well,
I worked in PA. I worked in King of Prussia down near Philly, where the Indian Company was.
Yeah, well, there's only about 15 million people in Pennsylvania, so I'm sure you guys know each other.
He's a coach, but yeah, no.
So I help people a
Sure,
lot with.
So Amit could take preparation classes with you for the CELTA, right?
Yeah.
If you wanted to, Amit, yeah, you have. I think he's giving you good advice. I would watch every video on YouTube you can find about that and get people's different, perspectives on it. And yeah, I think it is probably a good one for you to take based on where you are. And yeah.
I think so. I think so as well. But certainly do your research. You get this PDF afterwards. You can see here. You can just like click on the link, and it's going to bring you there to. That's me and Grace talking. That's what I look like with my hair down.
Yeah, I watched this video, and this
Oh,
was
okay,
very amazing. Yeah.
There are others as well. There's another one where I where is it here? If you go to videos, this one here, Seth, he's like such an earnest speaker. He's such a nice guy.
These two.
I watched. Great. So you've got the inside track. Great. Well, just to kind of round off here, this is roughly how I do coaching. I do coaching in kind of like 2 tiers. I do coaching, which is like a live video call, but I also do a asynchronous component. And what the asynchronous component is, you would send me work, and then I'm going to provide comments on every aspect of your work, and then I'll provide you with a video. And the video is usually 15 to 20 minutes where I talk through all of the comments. So a lot of people find this really useful, especially for work that they have to hand in or something that they're designing themselves. Because then, they can just take each comment and they can pause the video and go back over it, rather than, a live session where you're trying to, grab everything. Live sessions are really good for, when it comes to teaching, like really trying to understand a method or an approach, or practicing how you're going to teach this or that.
That's a good idea.
I have a bunch of kind of like, you sometimes see these different tiers of pricing. I just decided to go with the kind of climbing a mountain metaphor. So the way I kind of offer things is a base camp climber and then a Sherpa. The idea there that I would be there to, provide you all you need, kind of thing. Amit, back with another question. Let's go. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So after doing the CELTA, I just want to do a job in my local community. So how can I find jobs? Can you please guide me for this?
Yeah, so again, that's something that we could spend a long time working on. But again, just broadly speaking, I'll give you 2 pieces of advice. First of all, be okay with sending 100 CVs and only receiving 5 replies and only getting 1 job. Don't try. You have to protect yourself from getting disheartened against lots of no. Because remember, you only need to hear yes once. The other thing about a CV is, when I've written CVs in the past, I always try to include like a paragraph, just 1 paragraph that has the intention of what a cover letter did, which basically says why you're good for the job. Now, if you're willing to really put into work, I would recommend tailoring your entire CV for each job. Because, I've been an employer, and when I see that a person has really done that research and they want to work for me, I'm like, get that person on the phone. But, there's so much, we could do a whole set of coaching really around preparing for jobs, preparing for how to get on in interviews, tailoring your CV, etc.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go through this. There's a lot of information. Just to let you know, all of this is clickable. I do bundles when it comes to one-to-one, like if you want coaching, assignments, and then lesson plans. Those are broadly the 3 kind of sections of courses, like the International TEFL Academy or the CELTA course, where you'll be, coaching helps you to get ready for actual teaching. Assignments is your hand-in work. That's usually done asynchronous. You get a video and written feedback from me. Same with lesson plans as well. Lesson plans are a big part of what you're evaluated on or assessed on in courses. So often I'll offer those as asynchronous sessions as well. These hours and prices, they're really just guidelines. Like you might say to me, Fergus, you don't have any option here where I can get 3 hours coaching and where I can have 3 assignments and no lesson plans. There's no option there. Yeah, if that's what you want, tell me that, and I'll create a bundle like this for you. They're guidelines, right? And really, the idea is I offer it's between a 10 and 15% discount if you buy a bundle. Whereas I do have hourly rates when it comes to just no bundles, where you're saying, Fergus, yeah, can we have an hour this week? And then you call me again in 2 weeks, kind of an hour there. I would have an hourly rate for that, but where you buy it in a bundle, I offer discounts. I do offer group courses as well. So you'll see again these courses. If you jump over to my website, I have one around starting your own coaching business. And then you can see what all of that course entails. I offer that course both one-to-one and I offer it as a group. Just the thing for my group courses, just to let you know, I do need minimum 3 people for it to start. So the way it works is I just take an expression of interest, and when I have a full group, I let the people know, and then we move on from there. I'm not a big enough entity yet to say I'm definitely running at these points in the year, because there's only so many hours in the day for me. So again, you can look at that, spend some time, and again, I'm not going to go through this here. This slide, and you can read it in the PDF. What it's telling you is, if you do take one of these bundles, and for the asynchronous stuff where you send me some work and then I send you back written feedback and videos, this is just telling you what the deliverables are, like the turnaround time, what you get for it, what follow-up that you can have, just so things are clear. But again, I'll let you read through that in your own time. Again, if you're thinking about doing CELTA, I do have online courses for CELTA assignments. I offer a little discount.
Oh, nice.
You can get that if you wish. There will be more courses. I'm working on more from my website going forward. Will be courses around teaching grammar and teaching the various skills and coaching, etc., etc. But that's in the pipeline. And
Great.
that's it. So we've gone well over all of our allotted time. So again, I'm going to say to you, thank you for staying with me, everyone.
Well, thank you for all of your time. Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah.
So I'll just tell you just 2 quick next steps. I'm going to, in the next hour or so, I just need to put it together. I will send you an email with a PDF of these slides. And I would just ask you, if you could, maybe you don't even want to do anything. You're happy enough with this, and that's okay. I met that guy. On next thing, if you could just let me know, roughly what you felt about the call, and then if you have any what your plans might be to work together or not. Just give me a quick word. I always appreciate it just to hear something afterwards from people. And if you're okay with it, I always like to end off these calls with is everybody okay with a selfie?
Yeah.
So smile for the camera. And I usually take 3 or 4, because the amount of times that I catch myself with a deer in the headlights look, and I look really weird. So okay, I've taken 3 or 4. I'll send you the best one where we're all looking our best.
Closed. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Okay, everybody, I talk a lot, so I'm going to give your ears and brain a little rest. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to meet you both, and have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Thanks, Fergus. Good to meet you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.